One of the Boston Red Sox best and most popular players in the mid-1990s also had a bit of a reputation for enjoying the nightlife. One night in 1995, the baseball star came to the aid of his girlfriend who was being harassed and an altercation ensued. Little did the Sox star player know, but the men involved were from one of Boston's most infamous and dangerous hoods. Unfortunately for the ball player, one of the men whom authorities believe is connected to one of Boston's most tragic crimes did not want to let the situation slide. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. So I got a tale for yous guys that some of you may remember and some of you may not. I vaguely remember when this happened, seeing as being a 12-year-old boy, I was obsessed with baseball and the Red Sox. I would stay up all night watching the replay of the game I just watched on Nesson like every single night. Mo Vaughn was by far my favorite player on the team. Now, this is after Wade Boggs was traded and left for the garbage Yankees before the 1993 season. Not only was Boggs the Sox third baseman, which was the position that I played, but the guy allegedly put away 107 Bud Heavies on a cross-country flight when the team went to the West Coast for a series. When men were men, you know? Only because I know people are going to have something to say about that figure. So, allegedly, it was 73 on the actual flight, but he began in the locker room in Boston before they got on the airplane, and he wasn't finished when he got off the airplane. So the total number was 107, but it was like 73 on the actual flight. So you guys can call BS. You guys can say whatever you want. It's Wade Boggs, man. Come on. Mo Vaughn, aka the Hit Dog, was an imposing power hitter. When this incident occurred, Vaughn was at the height of his career. In 1995, by mid-season, Vaughn was trailing Mark McGwire by a couple home runs to be the league's leader. He would go on to have his best season with the Red Sox the next year in 1996. Vaughn, who was originally from the region, grew up in Connecticut, and he was a standout athlete in high school. He went on to play Division I baseball at Seton Hall in college. There he played alongside future Red Sox teammate John Valentin. Vaughn was well liked by the Boston fans. He had a cool demeanor, and he was a force at the plate. Mo Vaughn was also a mountain of a man. At 6'1" and 235 pounds, which when I was a kid, he looked a lot bigger than that. He was noticeably bigger than most of the other players on the field. If you're a Sox fan or around my age, you'll most likely remember the legendary game between the Boston Red Sox and Chicago White Sox on September 6, 1993. During a tense at-bat between rookie Sox pitcher Aaron Seeley and Chicago slugger George Bell, Seeley knocked Bell down with a headhunter pitch, and then on the very next pitch, Seeley sailed one right behind Bell's head. He then proceeded to drop his bat and charge the mound. And then it's kind of like the rest is history. So like I said, Seeley was kind of, he threw one high and up tight. Bell had to duck from it, kind of stayed him down. It was like a tense moment. And then the very next pitch, Seeley, who's a rookie, but, he was a confident rookie, right behind, it sailed right behind Bell's head. Bell, kind of looked at the dugout for a second. He wanted to do it. He threw the bat down. He charges the mound. He's running up. Seeley's a big dude, like I say. He's a rookie in the league, but he's pretty confident. He didn't back down 1 second. He throws his glove right off, and he's like, come on, let's go. He didn't back down. He was like, let's get ready. Bell comes running up, and he takes a stutter step right before he gets to Seeley, and he just throws this ridiculous haymaker. Seeley does one little side step to the side, just totally dodges it, and Bell... The announcer, of course, is going, oh, blah, blah, blah. But Bell was a little bit off balance because he threw this, just crazy, ridiculous haymaker. But out of nowhere, from first base, like a freight train, Mo Vaughn comes running through and just drills George Bell and just takes him down. The bench is clear. George Bell is just his bell got rung by Mo Vaughn. And it's just like I said, if you're my age or a Red Sox fan, it's probably one of the most iconic memories. It's one of my favorite Red Sox memories from that time period. I don't know if it's my favorite situation like that in the Red Sox. I think the best ever is when Pedro Martinez threw Don Zimmer on the ground during the melee between the Yankees and the Red Sox during the ALCS. But this is up there. This is a close second. I love that. Bond, it's like a freight train out of first base. boom, George Bell. And now it's like, oh, Bell was off balance from throwing the haymaker, and Vaughn really didn't get him. They show him the replay, and Vaughn just drilled him. So honestly, it's kind of strange to me that anyone would want to start a physical altercation with a man the size of Mo Vaughn, or after seeing him steamroll George Bell like that. There's a high probability that the guys involved in the altercation at the nightclub didn't particularly like high-profile people who weren't actually from Boston flexing at local nightclubs. Apparently, allegedly, a prominent member of the Castlegate neighborhood crew named Thron Davis, aka Apple, harassed Mo's girlfriend when he walked away for a moment, even throwing a drink in her face. Vaughn, like any good boyfriend would, responded by slugging Apple with a home run swing. Davis then picked up another drink and threw it in Vaughn's face. A group of his Castlegate associates circled the pro ball player and proceeded to give Vaughn a proper boot party. Vaughn told the police that he was kicked by several different men and he had a pretty visible black eye after the altercation. Apparently the ordeal didn't end there. Vaughn had unfortunately gotten into a beef with some street guys from one of Boston's most dangerous hoods of that time period. In fact, Apple probably shouldn't even been out on the street in the first place. He was connected, allegedly, to one of the most tragic crimes in the city's history. By the year 1995, Boston had been bogged down by a crime rate and levels of violence that the city had never before seen. The chaos had ignited in the late 80s, and by the mid-90s, the city's residents were wary and began demanding action from city leaders. This was a legendary time period in Boston, specifically in the black and brown neighborhoods of the city. Every project, neighborhood, and sometimes single streets had their own crews with various intertwined rivalries and alliances with other Boston hoods. The majority of these crews represented themselves with the names of sports teams like Franklin Field Sharks, OP Trailblazers, Highland Blackhawks, for example. Two of the most active and notorious hoods during this time period happened to be locked in one of the most heated rivalries of the period, the Humboldt Raiders and the crew from Castlegate Road. It just so happened that the feared crew members from Castlegate were the men that got into the altercation with Mo Vaughn at the Roxy that night. Unfortunately for Mo, he had got into it with a group of dangerous men, one in particular who was not about to let this go. The guys from Castlegate Road were a notorious crew that came from the Grove Hall section of Roxbury. The group was heavily involved in dealing around the Castlegate Road, Washington Street, Columbia Road, and Blue Hill Ave area. They would constantly clash with other crews in the area, mostly because of the extremely close proximity between them and their rivals. The entire city was bad during this time period, but Grove Hall was arguably one of the absolute worst areas with the highest concentration of violence in the city. Castlegate Road had been locked into a vicious rivalry with the nearby Humboldt Raiders for years, and it resulted in one of the biggest tragedies in the city's history. Vaughn, by 1995, had been playing in Boston for a few years. He would have been familiar with the city and what was going on, but he wasn't a street guy. He wouldn't have really understood the street politics of a complex inner city like Boston in the 1990s. Vaughn liked to party, though, and this would be a persistent problem with him and the Red Sox management over the years. I doubt he had any idea who these guys were at the Roxy that night, and he was simply sticking up for his girlfriend when the altercation ensued. Now, of course, I could just tell the story of Mo Vaughn getting jumped in a nightclub and then basically being bullied out of the Boston nightlife scene by the Boston hoods he squabbled with. But if you watch my channel, you know I can't resist diving into these topics and digging deeper than just the surface story. As I was researching Thron Davis, aka Apple, the main antagonist against Mo and his girlfriend at the Roxy, I found that he was rumored to be involved in one of the most infamous incidents to take place in Boston. It was a boiling point in the most chaotic period in the city's history. The accidental death of 12-year-old Darlene Tiffany Moore. It highlighted to the country and everyone not living in the affected areas just how out of control things had gotten. This poor 12-year-old girl was visiting her mom for the summer on Humboldt Ave. Her mother had previously sent her to go live with relatives because of how bad the neighborhood had gotten. She was just home visiting for the summer vacation. She was just hanging out, sitting on top of a mailbox at night trying to beat the summer heat when a Castlegate member accidentally hit Tiffany while aiming at a Humboldt Raider. So back when Mark Wahlberg was Marky Mark, this is how we used to make the party start. Wahlberg made a song called Wild Side talking about all the crazy stuff that was happening in Boston, like the Charles Stewart debacle, poor Darlene Tiffany Moore. It was like the rest of the country didn't believe the situation was this insane in Boston. Tiffany Moore tragically met her demise for being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and of course for staying near a Humboldt Raiders member named Chris Cheney. Cheney was being hunted by Castlegate members for being involved in the attack along with fellow Raider named Mervyn Reese. They were trying to take out Castlegate member Romero Holiday. Not only had Cheney taken a pop at Holiday, but a month before the Tiffany Moore tragedy, he also allegedly attacked Apple Thron Davis, who authorities described as a prominent member of the Castlegate crew, and injured Davis's hand. For these two offenses against the Castlegate crew, Cheney was a marked man. Authorities believe that Davis, along with another prominent Castlegate member, London Williams, were actually the culprits of Tiffany Moore, even though another man, Sean Drumgold, was arrested and convicted of the terrible crime. Sean Drumgold was arrested and convicted for Tiffany's death, even though the case was shaky at best from the start. Between multiple witnesses conflicting the appearances and number of assailants, to witnesses being pressured by authorities to tell certain versions of what they saw or face legal consequences, the police also paid for a witness to live in a hotel when he was homeless and financially supported him in return for supposed perjured testimony. Sean Drumgold ended up spending 14 years in prison before his ace lawyer, Rosemary Scarpiccio, the same lawyer that represented Sean Ellis, was able to get him out of prison. The state decided not to try him again and threw out the original case, making Sean Drumgold a free man. He sued for $14 million, originally $1 million for every year in prison, but he and Scarpiccio decided to settle for $5 million. The authorities now claim that they believe Davis and Williams were the actual culprits, and they had a valid reason to want to take out Chris Cheney. It's just another example of the corrupt and shady legal processes in the city of Boston during this troubled time period. There was a lot of incredibly sloppy police work going on in the 1990s. After the nightclub incident where Mo Vaughn was jumped by Davis and his Castlegate associates, Vaughn and his girlfriend were allegedly being harassed and threatened to the point that the ballplayer's girlfriend got a restraining order against Theron Davis. She said she was in fear for her life. Most likely after the altercation, Vaughn probably learned the identity of his attackers and realized he was dealing with some dangerous men. After this, Vaughn laid low from the Boston nightlife scene, not wanting to run into Davis or any of his Castlegate associates. Vaughn started frequenting Brockton, Mass. And Providence, Rhode Island. He actually got into a car accident coming home from a club in Providence, Rhode Island, causing him to have more static with Boston's front office. Vaughn ended up leaving the Sox in 1998 for the Anaheim Angels. He was a good player on a mediocre mid-90s Red Sox team. He missed out on being part of the new championship caliber organization that took hold in the early 2000s, culminating in the Sox reversing the curse and winning their first title in 86 years in 2004. The feds ended up coming for Castlegate around the turn of the millennium with a big case indicting over 30 individuals from the crew. It was a coordinated effort between the DEA, the Boston Police Department, and the Boston Housing Authority Police. The main focus of the case was to stop Castlegate from dealing in Grove Hall and committing acts of violence against the rival crews in the area. The indictment alleges that from 1991 to 1998, Castlegate members terrorized the neighborhood with open-air markets and brazen acts of violence, i.e. Tiffany Moore. Theron Apple Davis ended up getting 133 months for using a telephone to facilitate the sale of some cooked South American product. Kind of a stiff sentence in my opinion. The sentences all around this case were heavy-handed. It was towards the end of the era of draconian over-the-top sentencing for these types of crimes. I think specifically for Davis, though, authorities wanted to stick him with a harsh sentence because he was a guy who was believed to be one of the more violent Castlegate members. And if they couldn't prove his guilt in those cases, they were going to make sure they were going to give it to him here. So I hope you guys liked this quick video about maybe a lesser known story from Boston's past. While not as high profile as the Paul Pierce nightclub incident, it still highlights how Boston was in the late 1980s and 1990s, where a lot of times professional athletes would catch static from local crews at the nightclub scene. Mo Vaughn was a solid player for the Sox. I think he could have been a more consistent player and achieved higher accolades if he took better care of himself and trained more seriously. It seems like Mo enjoyed the nightlife and partying a little too much. From what I see, it's really nothing but a whole lot of trouble for these athletes when they chase the nightlife scene. Anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed this quick video. I threw it together really quick. I'm working on a doozy of a video and I realized it wasn't going to be done in time, so I put this one together. It's taking longer than I thought because thankfully a bunch of guys from the case have agreed to talk to me. So I've been working with them and slowly putting it together. It's a really important one for me. So I'm sorry if this video doesn't come out on Sunday, but it's been a rough week for us guys over here, so just bear with us. So like I said, I'm sorry guys, you're not going to get this video on Sunday, I don't think. Hopefully I'll have you guys on Monday night. And then I got this really big video that I'm working on that's going to come up after that. And there's just a lot of really cool, crazy stuff going on in the channel coming up. Like I had kind of a bigger than life experience the other day. I'm not going to say it because the guy who I spoke to told me he was going to do something on his end to kind of like be like promote me or whatever, because he's apparently a fan of my channel, and it was like just a really kind of surreal experience. So he said he was gonna do something on his end, so I'm gonna give him, you know, he said he was gonna do it, so I'm gonna shut up about it now, but I'm just obviously very excited about it. But if you guys like this video, which I hope you did, even though it was a quick one that I put out there, I think it's an entertaining story, hit that like button, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. But you guys know, most of all, make good choices, make good decisions, take good care of yourself, your family, your friends, your fellow human beings. Try to have a nice day, guys. I'll talk to you soon. God bless.